Hey guys, I'm Amarat and I know it took me some time before I was able to make a new video, but I was very busy and I actually got myself a new computer, which means way higher quality of videos for you now. Both video and audio should be just way better. You shouldn't be able to hear my fans and so on. Although you will probably hear my keyboard way more loudly now, so that's flip side. Maybe I should get some different keyboard just for video recording, I don't know. This one is very loud because it's a mechanical one. Well, never mind that. Another thing which happened, which is kind of new, is that we've reached 500 subscribers, so thank you very much for that. That's actually almost twice as many people as there are inhabitants in village I was raised in. So that's kind of crazy, but I'm glad. Your support was great, and I'm glad that there are so many people I can help with something, with at least something, and that this number is still increasing. Today we will take a look at perhaps a little bit boring topic, which probably won't be interesting for too many of my viewers, but it will be still very helpful for someone, because if you want to make any maps for dungeons or for interiors and so on, Grid can help you really very much. And I will show you how to make Grid in Photoshop, how to set it up and how to make use of it. So if we don't have Grid at all, we can just paint with our brush. We can hold our shift and use our brush to make straight lines. So click somewhere, hold shift, click somewhere else, and you can just by clicking and holding shift make line like this. Also, when you put brush down with click, hold shift and move to the right or to the left, you make horizontal line. And if you click and hold shift and move up down, you make vertical line. So you can do this even without grid, and this can be used to make some sort of grid of your own. You can do that, but it won't be completely exact, but it will sort of work. You can use this, but there's a way better way of doing this. You can use actually a grid. So how to make your grid display in the first place? Go to view menu and make sure that your extras are shown, and that grid is being shown here as well. Now I don't really have this keyboard shortcut on my keyboard because I've got Czech keyboard, but with Ctrl H you can hide and show all your extras, and that's not just grid, that's more settings, and that's a very quick way of showing and making that grid disappear. Now when you see your grid, you can also go to view menu, make sure that snap is turned on, and you can turn snapping to grid on as well. And now what happens is that when I'm following with my brush that grid closely enough, you can see that it is making straight lines or lines snapping to that grid. And you can just click, for example, let's use round brush a little bit bigger. You can just click into corners or into cross sections of that grid, and it is going to fit into those cross sections of grid, and this can be very helpful sometimes. So that's how you can make use of grid. How to set your grid up? Well, in edit menu, in preferences, there's guides, grid and slices, and here in this window in grid you can change your color of your grid. So if you are making, for example, map which has a lot of green in it, maybe you want to change your grid color to red and so on. And you can also change size of grid. Now what size do I recommend? 70 pixels I recommend for Roll20. If you intend to make your maps work for virtual tabletops, for example for Roll20 and so on, Roll20 itself has 70 pixel grid, and you can't change size of that grid, at least as far as I'm concerned. Some other software, like for example Map2, you can change grid size there. So if you intend to use your maps for Dungeons and Dragons, and make sure that you can change grid size in that software. If you can't, learn what that grid size is and stick to it. So I'm using my maps on Roll20, 70 pixels. I'm using my maps in Map2 as well, but Map2 has customizable grid size, so 70 pixels will work there as well. So it's 70 pixels for me, but you can change it, make it bigger, smaller, whatever you need. 512 and so on, if you want to use this for World of Warcraft for some map images and so on, or 256, whatever. Anyway, You can change amount of subdivisions as well, and that's secondary grid. So 4 subdivisions, 3 subdivisions may be helpful for you as well. Sometimes I change these values while working on map, sometimes I just stick to one grid while making one map, sometimes I don't use grid at all on some maps, it really depends. So that's how you can make use of grid. Now if you want something to fit into your grid, some seamless pattern, and that's what I used for example in this map, you can see in this dungeon map that I was sticking to grid quite a lot. That's, by the way, another thing you can do. You don't have to snap to grid just your brush, but even selections can be snapped to grid. You can see that now I am making selections which are snapping to that grid. And after making such selection, I can just, with bucket tool for example, I can fill it. And you can see that I was following that grid exactly. So that can be used for making walls, for example. Now that's exactly what I was doing in this map, so you can see that I followed grid with making walls and hallways and so on, but I've got also those tiles here on floor fitting that grid exactly as well. How can you do that? Well, I am not really familiar with any technique or any setting in Photoshop which can do this on its own. So we will need to make sure that our texture fits that grid, because if I use this texture from World of Warcraft and define it as pattern and apply it as pattern overlay here, you can see that it doesn't really fit that grid very well. So let's downscale it, 50, we need more, 53, nope, we need more, 54, we still need a little bit more, 55 is already too much, which means we can't really, because you can put only integer here, we can't really make this texture fit that grid exactly, and on a larger map this would be a real issue. So the other thing you can do is make that texture fit your grid. So our grid is 70 pixels, right? So with Ctrl Alt and I you can go to image size, and we will resize this to fit our grid. So our grid is 70 pixels, all right? So 140 by 140, because this will make sure that one square here is one square in our grid. Okay, it's downscaled, define it as new pattern. And we will now use that new pattern with 100% scale, and you can see that it does now fit that grid exactly, and that's what we want, and that's technique I used here, for example, in this map. So that's the way you make use of grid, and you make sure that your patterns fit that grid if it is required. And this is how grid can be helpful for you, because now I can really just select something and fill it with my bucket, and I've got exactly what I wanted. I've got some hole which is matching those tiles and so on, and this can be used for many different things. So that's it, guys, that's everything I wanted to show you here. This was a rather short video, and I would like to keep my videos on a little bit shorter side and a little bit more down to point. Hopefully I will be able to achieve it, and I will show you more about making use of grid and selections in the next video, where I will actually make a dungeon using the knowledge I already presented to you. So that's it, guys, thanks for watching, and as always, happy map drawing.